focus on one of absolutely, undoubtedly, the major stories of the day, and that is that the UK and 27 other countries have called for an immediate end to the war in Gaza, where they say the suffering of civilians has reached new depths. Well, Rina Shah is a geopolitical advisor and strategist based in Washington, D.C. and joins you now. Rina, thank you for being with us. What do you make of those statements then from these countries, including the UK? Morning.
Hi, happy to be with you. Of course, this is such a grim topic. Looking at the statement, though, from the UK, Canada, France, and 25 others, what I'm seeing is that this is not just criticism. It's a geopolitical wake-up call. And condemning Israel's aid model as dangerous and citing over 800 civilian deaths while seeking food signals, a really unified push here for a ceasefire. And that is what we need. And also what you see here with Israel is they are risking losing allies' trust here. And that's even as staunch supporters like the UK warned that its actions are quote unquote undermining long-term security. So this could isolate Israel diplomatically if it doesn't pivot fast.
There was a joint statement, wasn't there, saying that Israel's aid delivery model is dangerous and that there was this sort of drip feed of aid and the inhumane killing of civilians who were simply seeking food and water. What Israel have argued, particularly given this incident that took place, tragic incident that took place a couple of days ago, is that Hamas fighters flock to these aid lorries and try and steal the stuff and appropriate it for themselves rather than letting it get through to civilians. So there are arguments on both sides about this interruption of aid, aren't there?
Indeed. But look, the reality here is that Gaza's hunger crisis is at a breaking point. 90,000 women and children need urgent malnutrition treatment. And what the hospitals cannot do is provide baby formula or food. And the Hamas-run health ministry is reporting that 19 malnutrition deaths since Saturday. So Israel's new aid system, which is bypassing the UN with U.S. contractors, has led to about, I think it's estimated somewhere near 670 some killings near the aid sites. And so these ongoing hostilities and restrictions are really choking aid flow, and they are driving desperation and death.
Now, these signatories include the UK, of course, Australia, Canada, France, Italy, Japan, New Zealand, Switzerland. They don't include the US. And really, I think what Mr. Netanyahu was banking on is the very fulsome help of Mr. Trump to be instrumental in bringing about an end to this conflict. Is he really going to mind about this petition if he's still got the ear and the support of Mr. Trump?
Look, Netanyahu was just recently here in Washington, D.C. Every time I see him make an appearance, you have to wonder, is this one step closer to Trump being able to quell the geopolitical tensions that he promised his base he would do? Still no hope with it's 6 months in. Trump has now hit a 6-month mark. And when it comes to Gaza, when it comes to Ukraine, no dice. But look, a permanent ceasefire is the only way to stop Gaza's suffering. 2.1 million people can't be displaced to a quote unquote humanitarian city, because what that does is violates international law. So recognizing a Palestinian state, which is what some signatories have suggested, that could be a step towards peace, but it needs American leadership to broker a deal.
Yes. And I mean, and Donald Trump constantly talks about peace, doesn't he? And initially said that he could have this solved in a couple of days or a day. But Israel has recently attacked Iran and Syria. Mr. Trump has recently taken part in a strike as well. And that's expanded the conflict, albeit in the interim. Right. When do you think Donald Trump and maybe Mr. Netanyahu will lose patience with one another?
Gee, you know what? That is the question du jour here in Washington, is how does this get worked out between the two men who have had a cozy relationship in the past? Seemingly it's still cozy. But I think what Trump knows and what many of us have advised from here in Washington is that he needs to have a very clear and concise mandate to Bibi. He needs to say Hamas must release hostages and Israel must ease restrictions. And both sides need a political path to stability. That is the only phrase that needs to be coming out of President Trump's mouth at this point. And unfortunately, we're not hearing it publicly. So all we continue to see is Israel claiming Hamas is disrupting aid and prolonging the war. But then you look at the data, again, like I said, 670 some deaths near aid sites. That shows their system isn't working. And as America, what we must do is balance supporting Israel's security with demanding accountability on humanitarian failures. That is the American way. The United States should lead on ensuring safe aid delivery. And what we need to keep doing is push for an immediate ceasefire. Our credibility depends on preventing further civilian suffering in Gaza.
Rina, thank you very much indeed for taking the time. That was Rina Shah, geopolitical advisor and strategist based in Washington, D.C.